How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Trevor MLCn Trigo, and I'm an iRacing driver for Depth. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Today I'll be telling you a little bit about myself by doing a short Q&A here. If you guys would like to see more of me, make sure to like and subscribe. Now let's dive right on in. Alright, question 1. Why did you want to join Depth? I don't know the time frame of this, but essentially a friend of mine that I went to high school with plays competitive Call of Duty, and for a short period of time they were actually under Depth eSports, and I had this habit of trying to follow them just to show support. So I got in as a streamer, and then shortly after that they ended up leaving Depth. But to me, Depth has been one of the best orgs I've ever been a part of. It honestly feels like a family. So I decided to stay with them, thankfully, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. Question 2. Favorite type of track to race on? That's a good question. So I would say I'm going to answer this in 2 different parts. On the asphalt side of things, short tracks are my go-to. I'm pretty decent at short tracks. And I like racing them, generally because it causes a lot of chaos, and it's fun to me, especially when racing. And then on the dirt side of things, short track ovals as well. It's a lot different than racing asphalt. Usually asphalt, the line doesn't really change throughout the race, whereas dirt, the more the track gets used up, the more the lines change. So you can run top, middle, bottom, all over the place, whereas asphalt, you're pretty much dialed into that bottom or that middle or that top, depending on that track. Question 3. What is your go-to breakfast? I'm not really a breakfast guy, but usually if I am going to make some breakfast, I'll go with some waffles or some cereal. And then question 4. What are things you do before a race? Depending on the race, I have different things that I do. If it's a long race, like an NIS where it's either half the distance or a full distance NASCAR race, I will definitely use the bathroom before the race. I will make sure that I have a drink at the desk with me, whether it's water or Freshen Up Hydration, whatever it may be. And I also try to make sure that I have eaten already, or will be able to get food at some point throughout the race. And then also, if it's like a high stress race, I will probably lay down for about 15 minutes and just kind of relax my mind before I hop into the session and get ready for that race. And then question 5, what is your dream vacation spot? That's something I've never really thought about. I mean, I would love to travel the world. One place I would love to go to is Ireland. But usually when I think of like a vacation, I think of traveling the country for races. Last year, we went down to Charlotte, North Carolina with some people from my league. We had about 10 to 15 people in there, which was really cool. A lot of those guys got like an Airbnb together, and we just made a weekend out of it. We had a same thing lined up this year, but unfortunately things didn't happen because of the pandemic and everything like that. But yeah, every year we try to do a giant meetup, so that's one of my favorite vacations that I do. But I would also do like a week long of where I travel state to state, hopping from like dirt races and stuff like that. That's something I really do enjoy doing. Question 6. What is your favorite car to race with? For me, I grew up going to dirt races every weekend pretty much, for as long as I can remember. Haven't really done it the past couple years just because of work. I've been working on the weekends and stuff like that. But with that being said, my favorite car to race is a dirt track sprint car, preferably the 410 winged version. It's probably a car a lot of you guys have never ever seen before, and if you look at it, it'll be like, what the crap is that? But it's a high horsepower car. It's a really unique style of car. It's kind of hard to describe it, but it has 2 wings on it. It has like a front little nose wing with 2 panels going, and it has a giant top wing on the top of the cockpit. and basically it's there to help keep the tires on the ground. So it's a dirt track car, so they don't really lift as much into corners. They just throw it in sideways, and that wing helps the downforce on it make the tires stick, and they can just like full throttle through the corners. So it's really, really quick, fast-paced racing. It's in real life, it's a dangerous style of racing. It's an open wheel car, which means that the wheels are out in the open. There's nothing covering them. Like on NASCAR, you have fenders that cover them. Like you could still make damage with it, like if you hit the wall or something. But there's no protection like that on the sprint car. So you can actually run over someone's wheel, and if that happens, usually a car ends up flipping. And when they flip, it is a huge wreck. So that's why it's a little bit more dangerous. But that's definitely my favorite car to race. Question 7. How would you spend $100,000 in one day? I would probably, first off, buy a brand new PC. This one's outdated, but I would buy one that's like top of the line, and get VR with it as well. VR is one thing that I really, really want to get into for iRacing. It's a game changer, honestly. So just update the entire like streaming setup here, or gaming setup. Probably buy a car, a new one, and then the rest of the money, well, depending on how much I have left, a lot of it would go towards family stuff, just paying people back, not necessarily that I owe them money or anything like that, but just for them like being there and just being family, just kind of share the wealth, and then with some friends as well, and then anything left over would definitely go to charity. Question 8. What do you feel about the publicity sim racing has received over the past few months? There's pros and cons to it. The pros are its huge recognition and publicity that we've gotten. A lot of people have never even heard of it and got to see it on TV when they broadcasted the iRacing stuff. So that's awesome. And we've received a ton of new members. We were at our peak active accounts throughout this pandemic. I don't know what we're at now, but we did hit our peak on iRacing, so that's awesome. There's tons of new racers that are on the service, which is awesome. One of the cons, though, is that a lot of people that haven't seen sim racing before, or video game racing and stuff like that, when they watch those NASCAR races with the NASCAR drivers, it was a wreck fest. Basically, they went in with the mentality, oh, it's a fake car. If we wreck, we wreck. We can race it over aggressive. They didn't put practice in, and it drives way different than it does in real life. Some of the drivers even said that it is harder to drive than the actual Cup car. So when new people that have never heard of iRacing before went and watched those races, and they just see the pro drivers wrecking, like every 5 or 10 laps, their thought process was probably, this is stupid, this is pointless, it's dumb, and stuff like that. So that's definitely a con to the publicity. Another con, which is less seen, is that with all the new drivers that we've gotten on here, the demand for wheels and pedals have gone up, and the supply has gone down. The wheel that I have here, I think was around $200 new. There's used ones, I believe, that are going for $500 right now, because there's such a high demand for steering wheels and pedals right now, but the supply out there is just so limited because they've been all bought up. And with the pandemic, not so much now because things are opening up, but when everybody was stuck at home, one of the few things you could do was race on iRacing. So all those wheels that were available got bought up real quick, and now the only ones that are left are like high-end dollar wheels, or used ones that are going for an insane amount of money, and the inflation on it is just crazy. So that's definitely another con to the publicity and the increase in drivers that we've gotten on iRacing. Question 9. What do you think esports will look like in 10 years? Honestly, I'm very, very hopeful for it. Over the years that I've been watching, which have probably only been about 6 years maybe that I've followed esports, because I didn't even know they were really a thing until I got out of high school. It's insane to see how much they've grown. Prize pools have gone up, and like I don't know, it's hard to explain. The the first tournament I went to, I haven't even competed in like a LAN tournament, but the first one that I went to, I drove a high school friend of mine out to Indianapolis, which was like a 13-hour drive for like a 12-team event, and it was a 2-day event, and it wasn't worth it in the end, but we had a blast. And that's the same guy that kind of got me into depth, that I followed into depth, and to see them grow as a team, and where they're like a top 8 or top 16 team now on the Challenger Series in Call of Duty, is crazy. And then, just like I said, the player pools are growing, the prize pools are growing. What is it? Dota 2 has like the highest prize pool, where it's like, oh, I don't even know. I know it's in the millions, and I know like the winners themselves get like a million or a few apiece, which is crazy. And I think that with this whole pandemic thing, it kind of boosted some esports a bit. I know CS:GO, like last year and the year before, they were on, was it TBS or whatever? They were on national television, doing stuff like that. So I think that it's really going to grow here. I hope it does. To me, it's fun to watch. I'm a competitive player. I don't play like high-end competitive, but like if a game has matchmaking that's ranked, that's the playlist I'm in. So I'm really hopeful that esports will just skyrocket here and then within the next decade. And I'm excited to see where things go, especially with the way technology is, and it's always getting better. The specs are getting better, things are getting improved on, new games coming out. Who knows what 10 years is going to look like and what the top esports games are going to look like. But I'm hoping that it'll be way above where we're at now. And I consider us really, really high up. I think esports as a general right now, or as a whole, is doing really, really well. Question 10. What made you interested in iRacing? So as I said earlier, I grew up basically going to a dirt track every weekend, sometimes 2 races a weekend. It's something I've been around basically my entire life. And then out of high school, I started going with some close family members to the NASCAR races at Dover Downs, or Dover International Speedway. And they would have 2 races a year, so we would go to that twice a year. And those are the biggest races I've been to. But like I said, I've gone to races like every weekend for as long as I can remember. The past few years have obviously died down a bit with work and everything picking up. But it's just something I've been around. My dad back in the day used to race online on the PC back in like 2005 or before then. So he had already had some experience in it, but then ended up dropping it when like the Xbox and Xbox 360 came out. He switched to console, but he's the one that actually bought this setup here. He decided he wanted to get back into it. He did some research on iRacing back in like 2013 or 2014, and he just bought it and let me use the stuff as well. And he doesn't really race anymore. He's only done like practices here and there throughout the past couple of years. So I've been the one that's really been the one racing, and I ended up, getting my own account, buying all the content I wanted. And it's, once you get into it, if you're really into racing, it just, I won't say it consumes you or like you get addicted to it, but it's so enjoyable. I mean, a lot of the races here, there's a lot of wrecks, in the early going on of your iRacing career, because they split you off based on your in-game rank. So like the highest rated guys are in the top split, the lowest rated guys are in the bottom split. So when you start out, you're a rookie towards the bottom split. So you have everybody in there that's like wrecking, and it's really tough to get out of. And it took me probably about 3 or 4 years to get where I'm at now, which is the highest I've ever been. But yeah, my dad was the one that pulled the trigger on the wheel, the PC, and everything like that. And I just, hopped on board and followed along, and it's one of my go-to things that I do now for gaming. Question 11. If you had to change your online name, what would you pick? That's another good question. Throughout my gaming, I don't want to say career because it's not like it's a professional career, but throughout my gaming history, I've had multiple names throughout the years. The first one I had, the very first gamer tag I ever had was on the Xbox. My dad finally let my brother and I get an Xbox Live account, but he was the one paying for it, and he got to pick our name. And it had like family settings on it, like we weren't really allowed to talk to people unless we knew them, stuff like that, because we were younger. But since my brother and I shared the account, we came up with the name Too Strong. But instead of TOO strong, like, oh, I'm too strong for you, since there's two of us on there, we're Too Strong, the number 2. But that one was obviously taken, so we had to do X Too Strong X. Now, it was a cool name, but the downside of it was that everybody thought we couldn't spell. They're like, you spelled too wrong. And we'd always have to explain, no, there's 2 of us on the account. That's why it's that 2. Like, every time you get in an argument with somebody, they would always bring up your name. And that was the one thing they would always go to. So that's one name I had. But I think one of my favorite names I've ever had was back in Call of Duty Ghosts. I played Infected a lot for like the leaderboards. I would be like top 10 for the week. I was in like top 100 like all time. But then they came out with Drop Zone. And I found out that, as you play Drop Zone, if you're in the hill, you get points. And the leaderboards were based off of points. And so you could get points without getting any kills. There were some hills where the hill would kind of go through a wall, so you could lay down on the other side of the wall where everybody's outside fighting. You're inside laying in a corner, still in the hill, getting points. So I figured out that you could get all these points without ever getting kills. So I created a new account called Don't Get Kills. And that was the account that I went with for Drop Zone. And I was like number 1 for a few weeks. But I did end up getting some kills on accident because if you guys aren't familiar with Drop Zone, like every 10 or 15 seconds you're in the hill, whichever team controls it, they get a care package dropped in that zone. And those care packages a few times fell and killed people. So unfortunately I didn't have 0 kills. But if I were to change my name, I would probably go back to Don't Get Kills because it's kind of a unique name. And it wasn't something that I had to put numbers in or X's or misspell words and stuff like that. It was a straight Don't Get Kills. So I think if I were to reset my name, that would be the name I would go with. Alright guys, I hope you all were able to learn a little bit something about me today. Shout out to Depth for letting me do this video. I really enjoyed making this one for you guys. For the next video though, let us know which member of Depth you guys want to see featured next. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe to the channel and the video. Make sure to check out our merch. They're all linked down below. Buy some Freshen Up Hydration at freshenuphydration.com. And with code DEPTH, you guys could save 15% at checkout. You could buy some of our merch at Agent Ink Apparel, like this awesome jersey right here or the hat. And then also, they're all linked in the description below, so feel free to check those out. And I hope to see you guys cheer me on in my next race. Until next time, I'll catch the wave later. See you guys.